morning to good evening, depending on where you're based. I'm Atib Ahmed Pare, Country Director at the Star Bangladesh and Assistant Research Coordinator at the Bragg Institute School of Public Health, Bragg University. I welcome you all to this session on the research capacity building for junior researchers. I'll be talking about decolonizing Global Health Academy. Like Natalie said, starting with the Bangladesh context, Bangladesh is a lower and middle income country in South Asia, a tropical region with very vulnerable to natural disasters and internal and external displacement. The country is primarily rural, but from the past 2 decades, it has seen tremendous urbanization resulting in urban informal settlements where people live subhuman lives with no rights and dignity. The picture in the background is of Dhaka, a megacity in Bangladesh. The water body acts as a boundary between the two segments of the population, the poor and the rich. These informal settlements are often the refugee camps. For instance, the Rohingya refugee camps, where around 1 million Rohingyas live close to the Myanmar Bangladesh border. Bangladesh fits in the intersectionality of this chaos because it has been a basket case in the academic research and acts as a model for other low resource settings. It is thus imperative that Bangladesh initiates the discussions on the academic decolonization of global health. With this presentation, STAR Bangladesh joins that pledge. The coronavirus pandemic has spotlighted existing imbalanced power structures, leading to calls to decolonize global health. Colonization, in this sense, refers to the idea that Western researchers and practitioners impose decisions and solutions on poorly resourced countries without involving people from those places. Researchers in the global south have said that COVID 19 has held up a mirror to these inequalities. When Shenjuti Shah, a very close friend of mine, a microbiologist from Bangladesh and the director of Child Health Research Foundation, was asked how colonial policies were affecting our response to the COVID 19 pandemic, she replied, "We are amid a crisis right now, but I think we are on the verge of another crisis. It will start with who gets access to the drugs that are showing good results, who will get access to the vaccines because there will be a huge chaos on the vaccine issues. All these issues will become critical, and people from resource poor settings will not be involved in the decision making processes." Back in April 2021, the WHO chief, Dr. Tedros, slammed scientists for proposing to conduct COVID 19 vaccine trials in Africa. Dr. Tedros stressed that Africa could not be a testing ground for any vaccine, and the colonial mentality must stop the hangover. Another example in the US's decision making has been to buy up most of the world's remdesivir supplies, a critical drug to treat COVID 19 at the beginning of the pandemic. This puts the patients from poorer countries in severe loss. And it did. That's what we saw in the news, and that is what the evidence was generated about. Some experts had also pointed out that it would be nearly impossible to practice social distancing in the urban informal settlements and the refugee camps. For the poorest, accessing water to washing hands is difficult. Today, 2 years into the pandemic, we are coming across data from resource poor settings worldwide that proves how people face difficulties in practicing stringent and colonial measures to combat the COVID 19 pandemic. These solutions that originated in the West failed to consider the lived realities of the people in low and resource limited contexts. The decolonizing academic global health is a sub movement under the more significant and larger decolonizing global health movement that is going on worldwide. It criticizes the unwillingness of reluctance and the reluctance of the international scholarly journals to charge hefty article processing charges. This was also very recently criticized by the editor-in-chief of British Medical Journal of Global Health, Dr. C.A. Abimbola, and the editor of PLOS Global Public Health, Dr. Madhukar Pai. It also urges the ICMJE to reconsider the recommendations that LMIC researchers, who are the ones who do on ground work, are not neglected in academic recognition. This is something that Dr. Richard Horton, the editor in chief of the Lancet, has also been stressing on very recently. Practitioners from the global south who witnessed this firsthand said that this colonial mentality affects people and negatively affects the outcomes of the programs that are meant to better their lives. When science is conducted with a colonial lens, so much is lost. We lose our context, our capacity building, and most importantly, we lose the translation of the science because who are we doing that science for? Who is going to benefit from it? Decolonizing global health, coming at a moment of reckoning in the development sector. The ongoing Black Lives Matter movement has highlighted structural racism in many sectors, including development. Similar to such movement was the Me Too campaign, where the South Asian countries also took lead. It has also forced the sector to recognize some of the structural issues that lie at the core of this, like the lack of diverse staff at the headquarter level and how local staff in various countries are often having decision making. This translates into a very practical example that we all must be very aware of. Community health workers who work at the core of the communities and in the urban informal settlements, in the urban populations, in the rural communities, everywhere in our context globally, especially in the lower and middle income countries, are not involved in the program planning processes. They are always the ones who will be at the lowest hierarchy of the programs and implementing our programs, but they are never given a chance to come up, climb up the ladder of the program hierarchy, and then come and have their say or raise their voice in the planning of the programs. As we emerge from this pandemic, what will there is a larger question that comes into the mind. What will it take for the global development sector to be more inclusive and more sensitive to the realities of the world around us? COVID 19 has shown us that we must be able to collaborate, communicate, and learn from each other in an atmosphere of respect so that everyone's voice is respected in this larger realm. So, going forward, is that the fact we are having these discussions on decolonizing itself makes me feel convinced to get good outcomes out of these debates. This brings me to the point where I ask a larger question to our audience today. Who is the decoloniality for? Colonized or the colonizer? Firstly, there are asymmetries in how coloniality is defined and practiced in the global north and the global south. The global north still shapes the narratives, defines and brings in the resources and sets the agenda for the resource limited countries. Secondly, another debate that becomes imperative is who should drive the decolonizing, the global north or the global south. Well, I will say that we need more voices from the global south. However, the global north has its own critical, reflective, and reparative work. Star Bangladesh will continue to track how the sector responds to the calls on decolonizing global health, from equitable vaccine distribution to who gets to really make the key decisions to article processing charges and the involvement of researchers from the global south. With this, I would like to acknowledge the sponsors and the partners who have come forward and made this event a huge success. It's been around 2 years that I'm a part of the Star Scholars Network. And by the end of each year, there comes a time when we get to reflect on what we have done, and we also get to reflect and plan what we are going to do in the year ahead. So, with this hope for a better future and for a very healthy and safe future, safe year 2022, I would like to thank our sponsors and the Star Scholars Network community for the support and the hunger towards the literature, hunger towards the research. And I would like to pass it on to Natalie now. Thank you so much for having us here today, and thank you so much for joining us.